The day you have waited for has finally come. Excitement fills your body as you enter the concert hall with your date, and it is packed. In the dim light, you follow the flow of the crowd as everyone excitedly makes their way to their seats. Whispers fill the space, and you are only able to make out bits and pieces of the conversations around you. Tales of incredible skill that surpass all other performers are mixed with darker stories. Stories of unsavory characteristics or choices are discussed in hushed whispers. But those aren't the ones that really grab your attention. No, the ones that attract your attention are filled with macabre stories of murder, magic, and deals with the devil himself. The imagination of some people. It's time to get such flights of fancy out of your head. With a slight laugh, you turn your attention back to your date, who is seemingly relaxed and patiently waiting for the event to begin. After all, you are both lovers of music and competent musicians in your own right. It's only natural to be interested in a virtuoso and the innovative musicianship and techniques you are about to witness. All of those other whispered stories, well, they are just that. They're stories. Deals with the devil aren't real. A hush falls over the crowd as a tall figure walks out onto the stage. He is dressed completely in black, and his hair is a chaotic mess, to say the least. Then it begins. The minute the bow touches the strings of his violin, you, along with the rest of the audience, are mesmerized by the sound and sights of the performance. His skill is certainly on a different level, but that was to be expected, as you were in attendance for a concert of one of the greatest violinists to ever live, Niccolo Paganini. I'm Brie.
And I'm Christiana.
And prepare yourself for a devilishly good time, because
you're about to hear something strange.
Welcome to episode 8, Virtuoso. All right, have you heard of Paganini?
I feel like I've heard the name, but I don't know of him, if that makes sense.
What you mostly hear about him is he supposedly made a deal with the devil.
Okay.
Well, later on, you and I will listen to, I have some examples of his music.
Ooh.
It's like, you can see why people thought there was something supernatural going on.
Ooh.
So to start, I'm going to shout out my sources. So as always, we start with Wikipedia. The article is Niccolo Paganini, Encyclopedia Britannica, Niccolo Paganini, Classic FM. Niccolo Paganini was such a gifted violinist that people thought he sold his soul to the devil.
Woo.
Or that sounds like a Fall Out Boy song. My Fall Out Boy. And, the last one, the Public's Radio, is the violin the devil's favorite instrument.
I mean, he was trying to win one from that Southern boy in Georgia, so it's possible.
We'll get to that later.
Oh.
I started out just on Paganini, and then I found all of these other things about the music and the devil.
Ooh.
I'm going to give us a little bit of like an itinerary for this one. I'm going to give you some background information. We're going to move on to a timeline about Paganini's life. Then we'll go to some interesting facts that I found in my research that like didn't quite need to be in the timeline, but I just thought they were interesting.
Sure.
And then we're going to jump into the stuff we're really here for. Just kidding. The weird, strange, and spooky stuff.
Okay, perfect.
Before we get started, questions, thoughts?
I'm excited. I want to hear about this guy.
This is going to be the highlight of my day.
Oh, I'm excited for you. This is cool.
All right, so let's get started. So just some background information. Disclaimer, I'm a nerd about many things, but especially music. I'm a classically trained singer, so this is kind of more instrumental than what I would have looked into, but I love classical music.
Yeah.
The Britannica article describes Paganini in the following ways. A popular idol, he inspired the romantic mystique of the virtuoso and revolutionized the violin technique. So that's just kind of like what you have in store. Niccolo Paganini was born October 27th of 1782 in Genoa, died May 27th, 1840 in Nice, France. The 27th thing's a little weird. Because both dates are 27th.
Oh, yeah.
And isn't it like the 27 Club, too? Is that a thing? So, like, Kurt Cobain and Nirvana, Jimi Hendrix, Amy Winehouse are some of the more famous ones that are in that.
That died at 27, and he was born and died on
the 27th.
Whoa.
Moving on. So he was the third of 6 children. His
Dang.
father was an unsuccessful ship chandler, which is a person that sold stuff for ships.
Oh.
But he also worked as a musician and sold mandolins.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I didn't realize that mandolins were, like, popular in Italy at this time, but
yeah.
you learn something new every day.
There you go. I like a mandolin.
I do
like
too.
the sound. Yeah.
I think of them more in bluegrass now than classical music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
truly.
All right, so Paganini was an Italian violinist and composer. He played other instruments, including the mandolin and the guitar, another instrument that is used in classical music, but you don't think of it.
Sure.
And he's considered a virtuoso, so this is someone who is highly skilled musically in the violin. So when did he start doing music stuff? He started learning the mandolin at 5 and the violin at 7. He studied under local violinists, but soon his ability exceeded theirs, so he kept moving up teachers and moving up teachers and moving up teachers. While he was crafting his skill, right? There's some geopolitical stuff that's going on. So in 1796, France invaded northern Italy, and Paganini's family went to their country home, their country property, Romarone,
Yeah.
near...
Sorry, if anyone's Italian listening, please help us.
I took 4 years of Latin, so I'm probably saying these wrong. Bolzanito. And then at this time, he started guitar. And he apparently was very accomplished in playing guitar, but preferred to play it in more intimate settings. Not sure what that means. Maybe just for smaller audiences or just, like, people he trusts.
Yeah.
He also does have several, like, a lot of compositions for guitar, but you mostly hear about his violin compositions.
Okay.
In the year 1801, the 18-year-old Paganini was appointed a violin position in the Republic of Lucca. Much of his money continued to come from freelancing, so he's making money as a musician at this point.
Cool. Good for him.
Wikipedia gives us this wonderful quote about his life at this time. His fame as a violinist was matched only by his reputation as a gambler and womanizer.
Oh?
They're dropping shade. They are dropping shade.
They are dropping it.
Lucca was annexed in 1805 and given to Napoleon's sister, Elisa Bonaparte. Paganini gave Elisa's husband lessons for about 10 years, while apparently also having an affair with Elisa.
Ooh!
So he's like giving her husband violin lessons and giving her other kinds of lessons. In 1807, Elisa becomes the Grand Duchess of Tuscany, and Paganini goes with as part of the entourage, but then he leaves in 1809 to pursue more freelance work. So he was there for like 2 years.
Okay.
The first big break, as Wikipedia calls it, happened in 1813 at a concert in La Scala in Milan and attracts the attention of other musicians across Europe. Around this time, he becomes seriously involved, in quotation marks, according to Wiki, with singer Antonia Bianchi.
That's how I say it.
Antonia Bianchi in Milan. They have a son together in 1825, Achille Ciro Alessandro.
Alessandro.
Something
I
like that.
That's romantic.
They were never legally married, and their relationship ended in 1828. The kiddo went on tours with his dad and was accompanying him up to his death. I'm not sure if they mean, like, accompanying him, like...
musically or...
physically, or both.
Right.
In 1835, he returned to Parma and was employed by Napoleon's second wife, Archduchess Marie-Louise of Austria. He was put in charge of reorganizing her court orchestra. This did not work out due to conflicts with the other members.
Oh, dear.
He ended his concert career in September of 1836 and switched his focus to publishing his compositions and methods.
Okay.
So via Wikipedia, in Paris, he befriended the 11-year-old Polish virtuoso Apollinaire de Konski, giving him some lessons and a signed testimonial. It was widely put about falsely that Paganini was so impressed with de Konski's skills that he bequeathed him his violins and manuscripts. So that's
that didn't actually happen, but people believed it did.
It was like a rumor, I guess.
Wow. Okay.
In 1839, he returned to Paris and started a casino. Career change. This did not go well. In May of 1840, he was not doing great. A bishop of Nice sent a local priest to perform the last rites for Paganini. Paganini was like, nope, you are overreacting. It's not that bad. And refused the last rites. It was, in fact, that bad. And he passed away a week later on May 27th at 57 years old from, according to Wikipedia, internal hemorrhaging before the priest could be called back.
Ooh.
He was denied a Catholic burial in Genoa due to this and his supposed dark associations via Wikipedia. More on that to come.
Okay.
The dark association. 4 years later, the Pope was convinced to let his body be transported back to Genoa, but he still hadn't had a proper Catholic burial. Finally, in 1876, 36 years later, if my math's correct, his body was finally buried in a cemetery in Parma.
Jeez.
In 1893, Czech violinist František Ondřejk.
Oh, man.
If anyone speaks Czech, if we have any Czech listeners, I am really sorry about how I butchered that name. This lovely fellow convinced Paganini's grandson, Attila, so the other one's son,
Okay.
to allow a viewing of his body. I can't imagine what condition his body would have been in at this point.
Yeah.
In
1893, this viewing was allowed. Ooh.
That's even more years later.
Ooh.
Maybe it's just the coffin.
Maybe.
God, I hope so.
Because, yeah, there wouldn't have been much left, I don't think. It's pretty awful.
He was reinterred in a new cemetery in Parma in 1896. While I was doing documentation and paperwork at work today, I tend to listen to classical music. So I was gearing up for this episode by listening to
Oh, cool.
The Paganini playlist on Spotify.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And there's a really concise and I think well-written summary of his music career on his Spotify artist profile.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts or questions before we move on to the interesting facts?
Did it say what caused the hemorrhaging?
He had a lot of medical stuff. Let me look what Spotify said.
Yeah.
He had a lot of medical stuff.
It's he was not necessarily the healthiest guy to begin with.
No.
Oh.
Okay, according to Spotify, and if you want to get a good picture of what he looks like,
yeah, check out the Spotify.
according to Spotify, his official death cause was cancer of the larynx.
Ugh.
I guess, can cancer cause hemorrhaging?
Yeah, I mean, especially I feel if a tumor got big enough and was ulcerated, it could cause all kinds of horrible bleeding and especially if you think your larynx, your vocal folds, to create noise are rubbing and vibrating, so that could cause ulceration. I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but that's my thoughts.
So now that we've done the brief history of the life of Niccolò Paganini,
Yeah.
let's talk about some things that I thought were interesting. Feel free to give your opinions on them as well, Christiana.
Okie dokie.
Paganini, according to Wikipedia, was given the honor of the Order of the Golden Spur by Pope Leo XII in 1827. From what I can tell, it's like a pope-given knighthood for people that promote the Catholic faith. I have no clue how all of that lines up.
That's interesting. Okay, especially considering he wasn't allowed to have a Catholic burial because he never got last rites. But it's funny that he got that and then,
Just kidding. Your Catholicness was revoked.
Yeah, we take that back.
I guess that's called excommunication.
Really sad.
You mentioned earlier about, we talked about his death. He was sick a lot. It was theorized that he either had Marfan syndrome or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. These are connective tissue disorders.
Ooh.
He had really long fingers, and they think that might have been part of it.
Oh.
He was also diagnosed with syphilis as early as 1822.
Mm.
Now, I will say that wasn't uncommon at this time from what I could tell.
Yeah.
Some of the treatments along with the disease probably also affected his health.
Especially in this time, I have no doubt.
He was given mercury and opium.
Good. Do some drugs about it.
Great combination.
Do some drugs and some highly toxic substances.
This caused a lot of psychological and physical effects.
God.
And he had tuberculosis in Paris in 1834.
Oh my gosh.
Via the Britannica article, he was also a flamboyant showman who used trick effects such as severing one or two violin strings and continuing the piece with the remaining strings. I know about that from Two Set Violin.
Oh.
Because they tried something. I don't think they actually cut their violin strings.
Yeah.
But
for a minute when I was reading along as you were saying that, and I got to severing, and I was I swear to God, if this man chopped his own fingers off, I was what?
No, the violin strings.
Okay.
Paganini also owned some pretty cool instruments, including 11 Stradivari violins. So have you heard of Stradivarius or Stradivari?
I've heard of it. I don't know what it is.
Super, super high level violins.
Oh.
Wikipedia describes it better than I can. A Stradivarius is one of the violin, viola, cello, or other string instruments built by the members of the Italian family Stradivari.
Okay.
Particularly Antonio Stradivari, Latin Antoninus Stradivarius, during the 17th and 18th century. They are considered some of the finest instruments ever made and are extremely valuable collector's items.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Once again, Two Set Violin talks about them a lot.
About them. Okay. Two Set, we should probably say, is...
It's a YouTube channel. It's two violinists from Australia. It's like a comedy, classic music.
And they do a really cool job. They do a really great job.
They do, yes.
So, is Stradivarius still making violins today, or is that like a...
I think it's only 18th century, so there's there's only so many that exist.
I had in my brain, like, it's similar to, like, Steinway for the piano.
Yeah, that's why they're extremely collectible. Okay. Some more fun instrument stuff I put off Wikipedia. While Paganini was a teenager in Livorno, a wealthy businessman named Levron lent him a violin made by the master luthier Giuseppe.
Garneri?
I have seen this word written, and I know it's a good violin. Guarneri or something like that, yeah.
Okay.
Luthier Giuseppe Guarneri. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Any string players. I'm a singer. I apologize. I've seen it written. I just don't know that I've actually thought about it.
Right.
And a luthier is someone who makes string instruments.
Oh, okay.
So who makes violins, violas, cellos.
Oh. Cool, okay.
He was lent this for a concert, and the owner was so impressed with Paganini's playing that he refused to take it back. Mm-hmm. This violin came to be known as Canon Guarnerius, the Canon of Guarneri.
Oh, man. I'm sorry, guys. We're not, like, we speak English and sarcasm. We don't speak other languages.
Guarnieri. The Canon of Guarnieri. Because of its powerful voice and resonance.
Ooh.
There's, like, multiple Stradivaris or ones that he's owned or played.
Dang.
I'm going to re-say this and say that he owned a lot of he owned several or played several Stradivari instruments and a lot of other very high-end violins and other instruments.
I imagine, like, very coveted instruments.
Yes. Not as much is known about his guitar preference.
Okay.
He had exceptionally long fingers and was capable of playing 3 octaves across 4 strings in a handspan. That's an extraordinary feat even by today's standards.
Yeah.
He's known particularly for his fiendish 24 caprice for solo violin. Paganini helped popularize certain string techniques such as bow bouncing, spizzicato. I can do the Italian words in music.
Yes.
I had to learn those. Spizzicato, as well as a left-handed pizzicato and harmonics. Oh. He also purposefully mistuned strings to make certain pieces easier to play. Can you imagine that with a piano? Like, hold on, I gotta retune this.
20 minutes later.
It was said he could play 12 notes per second, a feat later achieved by violinist David Garrett, who plays Paganini in The Devil's Violinist, a 2013 film based on the composer's life. Huh. I did watch it.
Okay.
It was a movie.
Okay.
I mean, it had more spicy scenes than I like.
Sure.
Which makes sense from what we know. And, there were real people in it, but I don't think it was really based in reality.
It was kind of a depiction, if you will.
It was an artistic representation.
Yeah.
His La Campanella and A minor caprice number 24 have inspired many composers. A couple of them you might have heard of. Franz Liszt, he was a piano composer, I believe.
Yes.
Robert Schumann, Johannes Brahms, Sergei
Rachmaninoff.
I like him.
Yes.
Boris Blacher, Andrew Lloyd Webber, George Rochberg, and Witold
Ludoslavsky?
Ludoslavsky, we got that. All of them have written variations on this work.
Okay.
So, we talked about the music stuff. Thank you for listening to me nerd out. Do you have any questions, thoughts about that before we get into the spooky stuff?
I don't think so. I feel bad that he was sick so much. That's awful. And, like, he had some gnarly, like, syphilis. Like, I feel like syphilis is, like, joked about in today's society, but, like, that's gnarly. Like, it's a gnarly disease.
It is, and the treatments back then were probably more intense than the disease itself. Mercury and opium.
And then, like, having TB on top of that, tuberculosis. No, thank you. As a tortured musician, indeed.
It makes me happy for modern medicine.
Uh-huh.
Much of what I'm about to talk about comes from a classic FM article, but also I will mention other sources if it's not that one.
Okay.
So we'll start with the Britannica article. Paganini's romantic personality and adventures created in his own day the legend of Mephistopheles, or a Mephistophelian figure. We talked about that in the other podcast.
Yeah, we did.
Mm-hmm.
We had didn't we have a whole episode about him?
Faust, yeah.
Faust, yeah.
So before, I'm going to finish the sentence and I'm going to let you, we'll continue on to that.
Okay.
Stories circulate that he was in league with the devil and that he had been imprisoned for murder. His burial in consecrated ground was delayed for 5 years. It was more than 5 years.
Yeah, I was going to say that was...
So, do you want to give a recap of, like, who Mephistopheles is?
He was the demon that Faust made the deal with, right?
Yeah, so the German legend of Faust, you find that in many different formats.
Right. But it was, what was it? He made the deal for essentially for good things to happen to him.
Yeah, to have like worldly powers and for life to not suck.
Yes, because he was having a rough go of it and he was tired of it.
Yeah.
Justice for his wife.
On our old podcast, we did a episode about Mephistopheles, but the Legend of Faust.
Yeah, maybe we'll post that here someday.
Yeah, it would fit into this.
It would. It's a weird it's a weird story.
Yeah, it is.
But anyway.
So basically his skill was so great and beyond that of his peers that people started to think he made a deal with the devil in order to achieve his level of skill. We'll talk more about this later.
Sometimes people just like to hyperfixate on stuff, guys.
Well, I have a soapbox about this.
Ooh,
so we'll get into that later. Others said that his mom made a deal for him. Mother of the year. I just imagine, like, her rocking him in a little cradle and, like, sacrificing something and be like, psst, violin powers, right? What do you think you have to sacrifice to get violin powers?
I'm trying to think of something that, like, in nature that, like, sounds like a violin. She's just sitting, sipping from her, like, pottery mug, like, world's #1 mom on there that she made for herself.
And there's, like, there's probably, like, little devil horns on it somewhere.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, do a little trigger warning for creepy horror stuff.
Okay.
So this is also from Classic FM. So the violinist's fame slowly turned him into a heavy gambler, drinker, and a serial womanizer. A rumor even spread that Paganini had murdered a woman. Paganini murdered a woman, used her intestines as violin strings, and imprisoned her soul within the instrument.
Oh.
I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's like...
That's wild.
Yeah. Rumor that he murdered a woman and is like, I'm going to use her intestines as strings, which wouldn't work.
I was going to say, how? What did people think?
I don't know that from experience. I just know that probably wouldn't work very well. And then imprisoned her soul within the instrument. The woman's screams were said to be heard from his violin when he performed on stage.
I feel like that's just a badly tuned instrument screeching. Like, so I know nothing about playing violin. I don't even know if I've ever even held a violin.
I dabbled briefly.
Okay. You've dabbled, and one of my good friends used to play in school, and she would tell me how it's, like, really hard to play, like, certain high notes without it literally shrieking. Yeah. And the little bit that I do know about string instruments is I just recently picked up the bowed psaltery, which is a lot of fun. And I have firsthand experience with, like, if you're not, like, holding the bow correctly, have the correct amount of pressure when you're trying to play some of those higher notes, it's like it's bad. Maybe he was just having an off day.
So anyways, I think we have added another instrument to our cursed orchestra of doom.
With the Furby organ?
Yeah, now we have the intestine violin.
That's what Rosie plays.
No, she plays a cello.
Oh, that's right. She's got the cello with the instrument with intestines. Intestine cello.
If you don't know what we're talking about, what has been actually no, that won't even tell you because they don't talk about it there.
No, that's true.
I mean, it shows that Alistair the piano, but the creator of Has Been Hotel had said that Alistair had a Furby organ because
watch Has Been Hotel. Regardless, it's great.
If you're over 18.
If you're over, God, please don't watch Has Been Hotel if you're a child. Parents, please do not let your children watch Has Been Hotel.
But anyway, so now we have 2 instruments in the Orchestra of Doom.
Yes.
Orchestra of the Doomed. So I wonder what will be next.
I'm going to draw this.
I'm ready for it. All right, so moving on. He was one of the first people to perform music publicly without sheet music.
Oh.
He's one of the first to perform without sheet music, and this is the most compelling evidence of magic, in my opinion. I hate memorizing.
Yeah.
Did you have to memorize anything?
I don't think I was ever... granted, I have very, again, little experience with music. I don't think... No, because when we had our final, like, at the end of the semester where I was learning piano, we had, like, a little mini concert, essentially, like, for parents. But even then, we were allowed to use music. Like, we didn't have to memorize. You could if you wanted to, but you didn't have to memorize your music.
I think, the one group I sing in now, we generally start a concert with a memorized piece, but it's normally not anything too intense.
Okay.
But
in, I guess, marching band, I would have some experience. I was in color guard, so I wasn't memorizing music, but everyone that played had to memorize their music. So the band members and the pit members and everything had to memorize.
We had to memorize when I took singing lessons in high school. All of the recitals I sang in, and I did several.
Okay.
The first 1 or 2 recitals was only 1 piece, and then after that it was 2, so I had to memorize.
Whew.
And I was singing, not to brag, I was singing, like, master's level music when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So it's not easy.
Like, it wasn't easy, simple. It wasn't ABCs.
Yeah, it wasn't
I would
like
be singing.
hot cross buns, you know.
Not hot cross buns.
If you went to school in America, you know the nightmares we're talking about.
Why did we have to all play the recorder?
I found one of those downstairs somewhere.
I still have mine. I kind of want to play it again.
My conclusion is that this is the only evidence of any kind of supernatural thing because he memorized all his music.
Okay.
His appearance was described as follows by Classic FM. Paganini was a striking man with hollow cheeks, pale skin, and thin lips. He was very tall and thin, often dressed in black. He was just emo/goth early.
I love it.
That was me, not Classic FM.
Amen.
Continuing, he also had very long, thin fingers, and without the restriction of performing with sheet music, he flailed around on stage, earning him the nickname Rubber Man. I don't know if this is terrifying or hilarious.
I just imagine one of those, like, wind puppet things that you see outside of, like, when they're having, like, a used car sale, and they're like,
but with a violin.
Yeah.
The violin was considered the devil's instrument, more on this to come,
Ooh.
by this point already, so it's not super surprising that people would have started to have thoughts about Paganini making a devil deal, or even being the devil himself.
Oh.
Some more fun rumors by Classic FM. One of the first rumors came out of a concert in Vienna, where one audience member said they thought they had seen the devil helping Paganini play.
Oh dear.
I just imagine the devil, he's playing, right? And he's like bowing. I imagine him holding his violin up and the devil's like, put your elbow up.
We have discussed this.
People soon began claiming to have doppelgangers of Paganini with horns and hooves. So they started to claim seeing like multiple Paganinis with horns and hooves.
This sounds very Salem-y.
It does. It was even said that the devil once made lightning strike the end of Paganini's bow during a performance.
What?
Yep,
Okay.
what?
Okay.
It must have been the cursed violin because he didn't die.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why I stopped screaming. It's not funny. It's not funny. But...
Oh dear.
Also, kind of tying back to our old friend Faust, Goethe's popularization of the Faust legend was also occurring around this time.
Ah. Interesting.
Right. So I'm going to pause so I can show you some of this music. All right, so I just showed Christiana some of the more known pieces. So Paganini's Cuor più non mi sento, La Campanella, and the Paganini Caprice 24. What did you think?
Very pretty. Definitely difficult. And this is coming from me who I know nothing about violin, but you can just hear like the complexity in the music and very pretty.
Yes, it's very, very intense music. And when it's done well, it sounds very...
Oh, it's lovely. Should we link that?
Yeah, I'll link the 3 videos.
Perfect.
We're not done yet, but I encourage you, if you're interested, go on like This is Paganini Spotify. Like it's right there at your fingertips.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about violin and music in general and the connection to the devil in pop culture.
Yes.
So what do you think of right away?
I mean, Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Yep.
Gotta.
A lot of information that I'm pulling here is coming from the public radio article I mentioned at the top of the show.
Okay.
So this idea of the connection between certain kinds of music and a connection to the devil goes back to medieval times and the separation of secular versus sacred music. During the medieval times, violin was used more for dance music and was not allowed in sacred spaces. All I can think of is Footloose.
Footloose, yep.
Riggs quotes the early church leader, Saint John Chrysostom, who wrote, "Where dance is found, there is the devil."
Well, sorry, guys. Sorry about it.
I have no clue if this is legit or not. The article just said it.
Oh, gosh.
Danse Macabre.
Hey.
You know that one.
Yes.
That was the opening.
For Sauntering Vaguely Backwards.
Yeah. So Danse Macabre, and I also have a candle called Danse Macabre back there.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
It smells very good.
It's one of my favorite classical pieces.
Mm-hmm.
It was written in 1874 by Camille Saint-Saëns, French composer.
Yes.
The solo violin shows Death playing during a wild midnight dance on Halloween. So like there's a violin solo in it, and it's supposed to like represent like Death playing during a dance on Halloween.
Where the veil is thinnest, or so they say.
And if you don't know what piece we're talking about, I'll link it in the show notes as well.
It's a fun piece.
Yeah. And that's the violin melody.
Yeah. It's a waltz.
It is, yeah. The top string is tuned down slightly, creating an extremely dissonant sound when played with other strings. This interval is called a tritone. Do you know what else the tritone's often called in music? The devil's interval.
Oh, well.
Apparently it gained this name in the Middle Ages. I didn't even put the answer there for you. I just wrote the question.
Yeah.
And then I assumed I would know the answer.
Yeah, and you did.
I've been studying music since I was like, I started singing singing in church choirs as like elementary school, but
right.
I've been singing in middle school, high school, voice lessons, like most of my life.
Yeah.
We already talked about this, the first one, the representations of pop culture. The Devil Went Down to Georgia by the Charlie Daniels Band.
Great to hear in I know Charlie Daniels, rest in peace, but I did get to see him at the Grand Ole Opry.
Did you?
Yeah, it was really, and I mean, of course they ended on Devil Went Down to Georgia, because like, what better closer, right? And woo! So fun.
My husband has a collection he collects vinyl records. Like we have lots and lots and lots of vinyl records downstairs.
Yes. Yep.
He had recently been on like a Charlie Daniels kick. Has Been Hotel.
Absolutely.
There is the scene in episode 5. Is that Dad Beat Dad?
Yes, Dad Beat Dad.
Where you have Lucifer and Alistair having like a sing-off.
And Alistair pulls the piano out, and of course Lucifer pulls out the golden fiddle.
Well, Lucifer pulls out the golden fiddle, and Alistair drops a piano on him.
Yeah, that's true.
And then the most devilish instrument comes out. The accordion.
The
accordion. But that has to be a nod to The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely was. The golden fiddle.
We also talked about the movie The Devil's Violinist, which was loosely artistically based on Paganini.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there is a part in Fantasia where Danse Macabre is in there. I know at the very end of the first, I could be making that up.
Okay.
But I know like there is that scene at the very end of the first. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I can't tell you the last time I saw Fantasia.
Hold on.
It had to have been when I was little.
I'm going to find this. All right, so we've discovered that Danse Macabre is not in Fantasia. But there is the Night on Bald Mountain, which is a very kind of demonic looking thing.
Yes.
And spooky, scary skeletons.
Spooky, scary skeletons. It's Halloween, guys.
It is almost. While we're recording this anyways.
It's October. It's absolutely Halloween.
It's January by the time you're listening to it.
Yes. But right now, we are in October, and we're doing well.
We're hanging in there.
Well, yes.
When we were in my husband and I several years ago went to like Williamsburg, like Colonial Williamsburg, and we took this haunted boat tour.
Ooh.
And they were telling us about the story about like the devil dancing on one of the islands.
Ooh.
And then I found another devil violin story.
Okay.
Giuseppe Tartini 1692 to 1770. He wrote the Devil's Trill Sonata. No clue. I didn't know about this till now. There's a rabbit hole that I didn't go all the way down.
Okay.
It's a violin sonata in G minor. Via Wikipedia, it came to him or his friend in a dream. I didn't quite understand what they were saying.
Huh.
We're going to pause here for a second because I'm going to show this to you. We'll include the video I just showed Christiana in the show notes of the sonata in G minor. Also, another one, there is a German opera that I came across from a podcast called Music Untapped. They talk about music and they drink in that podcast.
Oh, we love it. Okay.
And it is, their episode 72, and the German opera is Samstag aus Licht, Saturday from Light, by Stockhausen. It's, I'll let you guys, if you're interested, look at their episode about it.
Yeah.
It's wild. There's like all of these different sections to it, all these different movements.
Okay.
And it's like the last one is these monks like breaking coconuts or something on the stage.
Oh.
It's very like it's like a newer opera, right? It's like within the last.
It sounds like modern dance. And I can say that because I am a modern dancer, so no one come for me.
It's like very avant-garde. Like it's just
and
like none of the pieces are really connected. Like they're all funded by different sources.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. So closing thoughts. I learned so much. Like I knew of Paganini. I knew of his music, but I just learned a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So can I get a little soapbox before we end?
Oh, please do. We love it.
So I have a soapbox as someone who works very hard on music. When someone has a talent of any kind, whether it be singing, whether it be dancing, whether it be art, whether it be sports, and it's like, it's they're like, oh, that person's so good. Either they made a deal with a supernatural being, or they're blessed by God or a God, right?
Right.
And yes, that can be a compliment, right?
Sure.
Being told you have like a supernaturally blessed or God-given talent. So I'm not putting down people who say that because that's a compliment.
Yeah.
However, I do think that the more seamless something looks, sounds, seems, the harder someone has worked.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if I am, I don't know about you, but if I am personally told, like, I feel like I'm like bragging about myself. I don't like this. If I get told compliments like, oh, your gift is God-given or whatever.
Yeah.
Or a blessing. It's a compliment and I take it that way.
Sure.
But I also really want to put forward, and it's a lovely compliment, but I want to put forward that if someone's skill is at that level that it seems like it's bestowed on them, they worked their tails off.
They did not get there for no reason. Like, yes.
And do I believe natural talent is a thing? This might be a hot take. Yes.
Sure.
I think some people just have something, maybe your vocal cords are different.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have longer fingers. Maybe you have tendons that are stretchier. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I would
be lying if I said that I didn't think that some people are just more skilled in certain things than others.
Sure.
But talent only gets you so far. Talent without conscious, dedicated practice does not get you to a place where someone like Paganini is.
Right. Can I join you on your soapbox?
Go for it.
Because I get that I don't get the compliments of like, oh, that's like a God-given talent. But a lot of what I get as an artist, like as an artist visual medium, is like, oh, I could never draw like that. Oh, I can only draw stick figures. Oh, you're just so much better than I could ever be. And it's like, no, I appreciate that. That's kind.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up a crayon the minute I knew what a drawing utensil was. I picked up that utensil and I never put it down.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I got where I was. Like, I didn't just sit back and like do whatever I wanted. Like, I mean, I never stopped. And I took the classes in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I took the classes in college. Like, I busted my tail and I still do to get where I'm at. Like, it's not like I can just magically do this. Like, it does take work. And I do appreciate, like you said, I think everyone has more natural inclinations towards certain things. Like, I'm very naturally inclined towards the arts. They come easier to me to learn than like math or science.
Definitely.
Big time. But, it's kind of, it can feel a little bit sometimes like they're not giving the person that's trying to give you a compliment isn't acknowledging the work that you put in to get that far sometimes. It's especially like when you're trying to, I get frustrated when people ask me like, oh, can you show me how to do this? And the whole time it's like, oh, well, I just can't, I'm never going to get this. And it's like, well, you're not trying. You're sitting here complaining about it. And like, I'm not trying to be a jackass, but like, you gotta try, you gotta work, and you gotta accept the fact that you're not going to be great instantly. Like, and it's okay.
So I think what we're saying is it is definitely okay to give compliments. It is okay to go, because it's okay to go, that piece of art is beautiful. That solo, that performance was great, right? Mm-hmm. And, like, we're not saying don't do that. Please continue to build people up on their skills.
Right.
What we're saying is don't forget that it took hours and hours and years of practice to get to that point normally. So what, people hear one performance, they see one picture, they see one work of art. What they don't see or hear is the countless years of work to develop, perfect, and maintain competence and technique.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm done with my rant.
I love it.
It gets me fired up a little bit because it's like, yeah, he must have sold his soul. He probably just worked really hard.
He probably just really hyper fixated. Like some people are just do that.
My other takeaway here is that rumors have always been wild no matter what time you're from. Yeah. See the intestine violin.
Oh, God. I feel bad that he got accused of... It sounds like he got accused of murder twice. It's like, guys, he just really likes the violin.
He's just a little bit of an odd duck. He hasn't been murdering anyone.
Well, and if he did have, like, Ehlers-Danlos... Danos or Danlos?
Something like that.
If he had something like that, he had to have some form of, like, chronic pain or, like, physical disability that made it hard. And maybe that's why he took, I feel like sometimes artists can take to a certain medium because it is an escape from, either an issue that they're having in their life or like mentally or physically or whatever. It gives them that escape that they can put what they're feeling into their music or into their artwork or into their movement or whatever. So it's kind of like, dang, give him a break. Poor guy. What drew you to this topic?
Well, as I've mentioned multiple times, I am a really big music nerd, and I also like spooky stuff, and I'm very passionate about music.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I first learned about this from Two Set Violin. Like, I had heard of Paganini, but, like, they make a lot of jokes about Paganini and his demon deal.
Did this episode change your view on the topic at all?
I wouldn't say it changed my view. I would say I learned a lot about a specific person. Mm-hmm. I don't know that my thoughts about supernatural involvement have really changed. Please see my soapbox over here.
Please listen to the episode. What did you find the most strange about this topic?
There are a couple things. The cursed violin.
It's the intestine violin.
The whole second composer who apparently was gifted a composition from the devil through a dream. And, oh yes, I had some weird stuff happen when I was writing this.
Ooh.
My husband was at some kind of music show, and I was finishing up this episode, and then I decided I'm going to figure out how to watch this movie, The Devil's Violinist, right? So I finished the movie, and it was like thunderstorming.
Ooh.
And after I watched it, I'm like, I sing more than just for fun. I sing in a couple groups.
Yeah.
And, well, I know you know that. But they don't.
That's true.
And I was like, you know what? My groups hadn't started yet at that point. They were all on break, but I'm like, I need to get back into shape. I gave my voice a rest for a little bit. I was having dental issues. So I was giving my singing a rest. And I'm like, I need to, no one's home. Is it 9 o'clock at night? Yeah, but I'm still going to just work getting back into vocal shape.
Sure.
And so I come upstairs and I see like this, I'm going to tell myself it was a trick of the light.
Yes.
I see a shadow, like person go down the hallway. And then it was thunderstorming, and I was like, nope. And I came in this room where we record because my laptop, try that again. My keyboard is in here, so I'm just like, shut the door.
Stay out there.
So that was the strange thing that happened.
Oh. So we'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, you can leave a comment on Spotify on the episode, or you can rate the overall podcast, I believe, on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. If you're interested in reaching out to suggest a topic you'd like to hear more about, just tell us what you thought of an episode or just chat, whatever you want to do. You can send us a Gmail. We are somethingstrangepod24@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram. We are at something_strangepod. We'd love to hear from you. Send us messages there. Comment on one of our posts. We'd love to hear from you. Let's start a dialogue.
There's lots of ways. And also, if you like this podcast, please tell your friends.
Yes, please tell your friends. We want more people. We would love to have more people listen.
When they're in the car with you, turn it on if you're the one driving.
They have no choice. Well, strangers, it's time for us to part ways.
Until we meet again, make sure to stay tuned for devilishly good music.
We'll be back again soon with another
Something Strange.